Is Dirshu Mishnah Berurah as we begin this Simin Mem Gimel Baruch Hashem. We are basically back up to date, and hopefully B'siyata D'Shmaya we will begin and trying to stay up to date. So we begin Simin Mem Gimel, in which the Mechaber coins it Din Eichles Naig B'Tefilin B'Yikanto L'Beisakisei. The halacha is how to deal with the tefillin when you enter into the bathroom. And says the Mechaber Asal Likanis L'Beisakisei Kavua Lahashtem B'Tefilin Shabarayshai. You're not allowed to enter into a Beisakisei Kavua, a Seb Beisakisei, with the tefillin while they are on your head. Now, what exactly it means, Beisakisei Kavua versus Beisakisei Arai, a temporary bathroom, we will see in a moment. What is the reason you're not allowed to enter into the bathroom with the tefillin on your head? Because we are worried that you might come to use the bathroom, not necessarily use the bathroom as we'll see, because lahashtin means to urinate, but rather yasam emsracha means to go gedolim to defecate. But if you're holding the tefillin in your hand, you're not wearing them, then then you're allowed to urinate in a beisakisei kavua. So a beisakisei kavua, you're not allowed to urinate while wearing the tefillin. Why? Because we're afraid you might come to go and defecate, but if you're holding the tefillin in your hand, then you are allowed to urinate. Now explains the Ramah, what does this mean that it says that you are using the bathroom of Beisakisei Kavua? It means you're sitting down. Why? What's the difference that you're sitting? Because then there's no concern that there's going to be any backsplash, that the urine will bounce back and hit you. But if you're urinating standing up, says the Ramah, Pshita da'asr, it's obviously also the law of Beisakisei Arai. It's forbidden because there's no difference in Beisakisei Arai. So it says the Ramah, the difference in Beisakisei Arai and Beisakisei Kavua is only whether you are standing and you are sitting. That is how the Ramah is explaining. A Beisakisei Kavua, a real bathroom, you're going to sit down while you urinate. So says the Ramah, there's no concern that when using the bathroom that the urine might splash back on you. So there's no problem. But a Beisakisei, and therefore you're allowed to use the bathroom while wearing therefore if you're holding the tefillin it'll be okay. Whereas by a Beisakisei Arai, it would be forbidden. Vuhuadin explains the Ramah, so now furthermore, now that he explained the difference in Arai and Kavua, set and temporary, is standing or sitting, and the difference between standing and sitting is that when you're standing, we have this concern that the urine is going to back up and splash upon you. So too if you're sitting, or if the earth is soft, and therefore there's no concern that the urine will back up and hit you, then there is no problem. Basically, say Arai nami shari. Then even in a temporary bathroom, you are allowed to use it because there is no concern. Here we are learning that the concern with the using the bathroom with your tefillin on is that you might come to wipe off the nitzitzis from yourself while wearing tefillin, as we'll see in one moment. There's no difference between whether it's a set beisakisei, whether it's a temporary beisakisei with regard to this matter. As we just explained, the Ramah speaks out explicitly that if it's a set beisakisei, you're going to sit down. You're going to stand up. What's the reason? Because the beisakisei arai, it's a temporary nature. It's not a real bathroom. There's no possibility of going gedailim, of defecating, and therefore your mistama going to be standing. Now back into the Machaber, it's going to make a lot of sense now. Now that the Ramah explained to us the difference between Arai and Kavua, standing and sitting, explains the Machaber, and now that we know you're standing in this Beisakisei Arai, you're allowed to urinate while wearing your tefillin. Aval, then it's aser. But if you're holding it in your hand, it's forbidden. Lahashtin. Why? Even if they're in your clothing. For what reason? They should start because when the urine backsplashes and hits your legs, you're going to wipe it off. So what are we learning over here? We're learning that when you go into Beisakisei Kavua, a set bathroom, you're sitting down. Therefore, the Machaber taught us you're not allowed to use the bathroom while wearing your tefillin. Why? Not because there's any concern that there's going to splash on you, because you're sitting, but rather because you might end up going gedailim. You might end up defecating, and that's the reason why you're not allowed to even urinate when sitting down. But if you are standing, then there's a different concern. Standing has a concern that if you urinate, what's going to happen? It's going to it's going to have a bit of backsplash, it's going to hit your legs. And then the concern is that you're going to wipe it off. The concern is that you're going to wipe it off. So now if you're wearing your tefillin, it's not a problem. But if you're holding your tefillin, it is a problem, because you're holding your tefillin, we're concerned you're going to wipe off your legs. Just to point out parenthetically before we continue, everyone's wondering, 1 second, if I'm wiping off my legs from the urine and I'm wearing my tefillin, what happened to the tefillin that are wrapped around my finger? So as the Bir Allah over here explains, and we'll I know it's a bit out of order, but we'll just jump into the Bir Allah, in which he explains that it's pashut, the same thing as the tefillin in your finger, that you have to take it off. The reason being, because if you're going to wipe your tefillin, wipe your legs while wearing your tefillin, there's no problem, but of course the tefillin cannot be on your finger. Now back into the Mechaber, in which he concludes Sif Aleph by teaching us so what do you have to do? Take off your tefillin 4 amos away from the bathroom and give it to a friend. The Rambam argues, and the Rambam says you're not allowed to use the bathroom while wearing the tefillin. Bein bebeis kavua, bein bebeis kise kavua, bein bebeis kise erai. V'yesh lachos ledvarav, and we should be concerned for the words of the Rambam, paskins the Mishnah Berurah, the Mechaber, and therefore the Mechaber is seemingly teaching us that when wearing your tefillin, and he says the tefillin shall reish, we have to see what that means. You're not allowed to urinate in all scenarios. So now let's go back and let's see the Mishnah Berurah over here. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkatan Aleph lahashtin, Hamagen Avram Sivkatan Beis Tes Kosav Damash Kosav Mechaber lahashtin. The Rabusa Nakar. It's a chiddush. Ta'afilu lahashtin, that even to urinate avol biishu chayiv shel adam. One might think, what do you mean? It's the bodily function of a person. I need to do it. I wear my tefillin all day. I have to urinate. What's the big deal? Still, asli kanis koshkin shel tzarich. You're not allowed to go into the bathroom because we're afraid you might end up defecating, and certainly for no purpose. And the Mechaber spoke about Tefilin Shabaroishe, Sivkat and Beis, says Mishnah Berurah, din b'Zorya. It's the same din with the Tefilin that are on your hand, also may I tell him, but the same halacha. It comes to teach you that you're wearing your Tefilin, excluding if you're holding your Tefilin. What does it mean you're holding your Tefilin, and that's when you're going to be allowed to enter into the Beis HaKisei Kavua? You're holding it with a garment, as we will see. The Pshita de Aser, the Mechaber continued, the Ramah continued and explained that when it comes to what's the difference between arai and kavua, standing or sitting, and the Ramah explained that any time you're going to be urinating standing, it's going to be forbidden, whether it's in a basic kisi arai or not. Why is it going to be forbidden? Because we're afraid of the nitzitzis that the urine might splash onto your legs and you come to wipe it off while holding your tefillin. Pshita daser, if you're holding the tefillin in your hand. Why is it also, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkat and Daled, because you might come to wipe off the droplets. Same thing as if it's on your head, it's forbidden. And it's also forbidden. Why? Because you're in a basic kisi kavua. You might come to sit down and use the bathroom properly. If the earth is soft, or if it's a slant. And of course, this is one of the reasons if someone is in a modern day bathroom, you might have an issue, the fact that you're in a bathroom, but the fact that we're not going to have any of this concern of the nitzitzis of the splashing back, because either it's going into the toilet, it's on the slant, it's urinal, etc. Nami shari vein chalik min kol makom, says Mishmur yishchlik sas the bekevag yishchasha shem yasas rachav. As we explained, that anytime you're going into a bathroom, there's a separate concern that you might sit down and use the bathroom properly. Therefore, you have to hold it in a garment. But if you're entering into a temporary bathroom, you can just hold it because there is no problem. Basically, there's no concern that you might come to use the bathroom sitting down because it's a temporary bathroom. There's no real bathroom there in the middle of the field. But of course, be careful. You can't pass gas in them. Says Mishmur Sivkat Chas V'nei Shetzarach. And we're worried you might come to wipe off the droplets that are on your legs with the hand that is holding the tefillin. So what should you do? It says Mishnah Berurah Sivkat and Taz. What you should do is Cholz and Berichuk. You should take off your tefillin 4 amos away from the bathroom. Ayin Magen Avram Shekasav Damash Kasav Mechaber Tchilas Lashim and Mu'man Ma'ir Bein Barai Bein Bekavua. That which a Mechaber said you're not allowed to urinate standing up does not make a difference. Araya Kavua Kmosh Kasav Ba'Gal, like the Ramah said. So Mishnah Berurah is pointing out the Ramah is not arguing. Like we explained, he's explaining the Mechaber. That's when you're going to a set bathroom, you have to take up the tefillin 4 amos away. Why? If it's a temporary bathroom, you got to take up the tefillin right there and use them right away. And what you do with your tefillin, you should give it a chaver to your friends. You're not allowed to hold it yourself. Oz. After married b'kavua m'vorah l'kamam b'sevei diachos b'bigda b'yadei. We're going to see that if you're going into basic kisi kavua, you're allowed to hold it if it's in a garment. Kim demari k'shamashten mu'umad. Since we're talking about a case where you're standing and urinating, chashina misham netzaitzis, and we're worried that the droplets are going to get in your leg and you come to wipe it off. That is why the Mechaber said to take the tefillin and give it to a friend. But we conclude with the Mishnah Berurah Sivkatin Yud Aleph. Excuse me, not conclude. Mishnah Berurah Sivkatin Yud Aleph says that the Rambam holds that any time you're wearing tefillin shabarayshei, regardless if you're kavua or arai, you're not allowed to urinate. Explains the Mishnah Berurah and Sivkatin Yud Aleph she'ein barayshei. V'ua din b'Yisrael, so too wearing the tefillin in your hand. Why? What does the Rambam hold? A different reason. So far we've seen a concern if you're in a set bathroom, you might come to sit down. We saw a concern about the droplets, you might come to wipe it off. Now says the Rambam, this fear lady, we're always worried you might come to pass. If they're in a bag, you're holding the bag, everyone agrees you're allowed to urinate. If it's in a bag, there's no problem passing gas. And the Mechaber Paskin, we should be chayshish for the words of the Mechaber. Says the Mishnah Berurah, in a time of need. You can rely on the first opinion in the Mishnah Berurah. But be very careful. The whole concern of the Rambam that you might come to pass gas. So says Mishnah Berurah, be very careful. If you're being makel, like the first opinion, not to pass gas. The meaning is take off the shel rosh, the gam shel yad, nachal lahatzir otzui, you should take off the straps, and mikaf yad from your hand, so you don't come to wipe off the droplets with it. So that's the difference in biskisi arai, biskisi kavua, and lamaisa the psak halachal, the Mechaber is paskin l'chatzchila like the Rambam, that you should be chayshish and never urinate while wearing tefillin. And we continue with Sif Beis, says the Mishnah Berurah, the Mechaber, Beis hakisi kavua, hainu sheish b'yitzay. What is a basic kisi kavua? That there's actual tzaya, there's feces in the bathroom, al panei asada, and it's facing a field, b'lei chafira, that it's not dug out. Let's see Beis Gimel and Daled together. Says the Mechaber and Sif Gimel, Beis kisi araya henu kigoyin lahashtin mayim. What does that mean? To urinate, sheina demolich v'shvila lebeis kisi. Because that you don't go. Again, this is in a world that bathrooms are not so accessible, so you don't go all the way to find your bathroom just to urinate. And you're making this area, this part of the field, you're making it into a basic kisei by urinating there. And finally, in Sifkat and Sif Dal, it says the Mechaber, if they're on your lap and they're wrapped in a belt, or it's in a garment, everything is going to be mutter. So says Mishnah Berurah, Sifkat and Yud Gimel, that the tzayah is sitting there, not being done out, what does that mean? Then you have to give your tefillin 4 amos away. Why? Because of the tzayah. If the tzayah is dug out, it's underground. It's its own rishos. There is no problem. And everyone here already starts to understand a little bit, like we spoke about many times, how our basic kisei nowadays, our bathrooms might be different. The mere fact that there is no tzayah there, as you see over here, it's learning that once the tzayah is underground, even though it's right there, but it's underground, the area does not have a din of a basic kisei. Therefore, you're allowed to enter while wearing tefillin. Of course, before using the bathroom, you have to take them off, like we learned in Sif Aleph, because you might come to sit down and go for a gedelim. But to urinate, if your whole intent of going into the bathroom is to go for a gedelim, even if the tzayah is not right there, the Beis Yosef is machmer, take off the tefillin 4 amos away, even if it's not really a basic kisei, if your intent is to go and for gedalim and to yasi sarachav, you should take your tefillin, says the Beis Yosef, 4 amos away from there. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sekatin Yadal Biskisi Arai Pirish. What does that mean? Oh, that means allowed them to lahashin by tefillin shabarayshi, allowed to urinate with tefillin on your head, and b'makom shein by tzayah. There's no tzayah there. V'kamu makom shein v'regilin lepanisham. That's not a place where it's normal to use the bathroom. That's what it means. Biskisi Arai. Lekach legazvinu shem yipanah b'tefillin. That's why there's no gezerah that you might come to use the bathroom. Afilu b'makom senua, even if it is. Even if it is a private place, because you're creating the Beis Hakisei right now by the mere fact that you're using the bathroom. There, Says the Bri Megadim, it's not that it has to be mamish the first time. It could be you went in this area a few times to urinate. It just means that it's not a set area. And we conclude with Sif Dal, the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Tazayin teaches us, Imheim B'cheik of the Tefilin in your lap, now we don't have to be worried about being backsplashed. We're not worried they're going to fall. Whatever bathroom you're going into, it is allowed. Or it's in your garment and you're holding them. Sarach Ian asks the Mishnah Berurah. In Sif Aleph, we learned if you're holding them in your garment, it's forbidden. They try to figure out what's going on over here. Says Mishnah Berurah, look at the Gaon, and the Gaon says Sif Dalet is arguing on Sif Aleph. That if you're holding it and it's in a garment, we don't have any concerns. And certainly if it's tied in a garment, everyone holds its mutter. A fascinating machlekes that we're seeing over here. The Mishnah Berurah is not readily apparent whether he's paskening like the Taz Magen Avraham or the Gaon. It does sound like from the fact that he gives the credence to the Gaon that he's paskening that Sif Dalet is indeed arguing on Sif Aleph, and that there would be a makkah to be makel if the tefillin are wrapped in the garment and you're holding them because there's no longer concern to wipe off the urine drops, and we'll pick it up from Sif Hey in the next year, B'siyata D'Shmaya.